Welcome to Ethereal Mechanics. If you're a classically trained scientist, then somewhere along the way, you were told that the ether was disproved by the Michelson-Morley experiment. If you are not a classically trained scientist, let me explain what that means. In the late 1800s, they believed that there was a supposed medium that filled empty space that was thought to be the carrier of light waves. They called this medium the luminiferous ether. And they ran an experiment called the Michelson-Morley experiment, trying to detect the motion of the Earth relative to this medium. And the experiment had a null result, meaning it showed nothing at all. This null result led to a line of research that eventually led to special relativity, which is what Uncle Albert Einstein, I'm going to call him Uncle Albert, which rules out a stationary ether. I'm highlighting the word stationary here, but let me say it again. Special relativity rules out a stationary medium. The ether is a medium. Special relativity rules out a stationary medium. Now, this is very interesting because in 1916, Uncle Albert introduced general relativity. And general relativity introduces the fabric of space-time, which I am sorry is a stationary medium. It's at this point that physicists are going to get all butthurt and start arguing semantics. I'm sorry. If it walks like a stationary medium and it quacks like a stationary medium, it must be a duck. We can even see that with the little demonstration that they use. We uses a fabric that's clamped to a frame, keeping it stationary, while all the little balls that simulate masses roll around and act like they're in orbit around a large central mass. I'm sorry, this is a stationary medium. And you can say, well, it's just an abstraction. Okay, but how does an abstraction interface and affect the trajectory of matter and light? And it's interesting because the length contraction equation, which was hijacked by relativity, was actually originally developed to explain the null result of the Michelson-Morley experiment. In the Michelson-Morley context, this velocity here is the velocity of the experiment relative to the medium that supposedly doesn't exist, but relativity has them. And because of this length contraction phenomenon, the Michelson-Morley experiment should show a null result. This explains why it got a null result. But that doesn't matter. Somehow they got onto this relativity thing. But relativity had to hijack this. And because relativity does not believe in a medium, well, then this can't be the velocity relative to the medium. So in hijacking this, they had to reformulate this such that the velocity is the relative velocity of the observed to the observer. And this leads to a problem which is called the ladder paradox. Ethereal mechanics does not have these problems because ethereal mechanics is not a stationary medium, it's a dynamic medium. That is the critical difference. And that's why I don't use the same word. I use ether without the A in it to describe ether for ethereal mechanics, or I just say medium. And now we add insult to injury because quantum mechanics also has something that fills the emptiness of space. And they get all these fancy words like quantum foam, 0-point energy, and all this fancy dancy stuff. But guess what, folks? Quantum mechanics supposedly is a model of matter, but they can't explain gravity. And then we look at the complement, which is relativity, which supposedly explains gravity, but they don't have a model of matter. These two sciences don't reconcile with each other. You would think that, well, if they fill them, one fills in each other, that because one has a model of matter and one has a model of gravity, that everything would be great, but these things don't reconcile. And if it is true that matter generates a gravitational field or bends the medium or whatever you want to say, and matter reacts to that warping of the fabric of space-time, then you would think that a model of matter should intrinsically show you how a gravitational field is generated and how matter responds to the gravitational field. These guys can't do it. Ethereal mechanics shows you, and it's so easy, even a physicist can do it. And this impasse between quantum mechanics and relativity has been going on for at least 100 years. Quantum mechanics was developed in the 1920s. it's already the 2020s. Okay, in ethereal mechanics, we have a dynamic ether model where the matter consumes ether. And because the ether has to flow toward the point of consumption, it flows in like any fluid, and it develops a swirling, a vortex, a consumption vortex action, which is called more formally an irrotational vortex. It's a very common fluid dynamics thing. You see it here. And we can see this at the very large scale. Your little gears in your head are turning, and you see the symmetry between the small and the large. But it gets even better, because at the scale of matter, at the smallest matter system available, we see a different kind of vortex, what we call a spin vortex, as matter spins in a circle, consuming the ether, because the ether is the fuel. Yes, matter must consume the ether to exist. No longer can we accept the ridiculous notion of regular physicists where matter is a perpetual motion machine that exists for no reason whatsoever. Okay, matter must feed to exist. And in feeding, it's actually a nuclear turbine. Matter is not frozen energy. It's actually a nuclear reactor. Every particle of matter is a stable nuclear reactor. And of course, this is important because we have to save the human race and the ecosystem. I have whole videos on this. I'll show you where to find those. Okay, and if I'm right, then we'll be able to drag the medium with us and travel at the speed of 1,000 times the speed of light at a minimum. So how do you find everything? Ethereal mechanics is a whole bunch of sciences that build upon each other. And we're going to explain what all these are in a moment. The number one flagship right now, the best place to start, is electrogravity. Electrogravity is the third paper of the ethereal mechanics series. This is where all the unification occurs. I wrote this paper so you don't have to go to paper 1 and 2 before you start here. I introduced enough topics from the earlier papers that you can start here and see how all the unification occurs. The paper is available. I'll show you how to get there in a minute. And the videos are contained in a playlist. I'll show you how to get to those in a moment as well. Okay, video number 1 is very important. It is called transvariance. It's basically a high-fidelity simulation of the Michelson-Morley experiment that shows that you need much more than time dilation or length contraction to show the null result of the Michelson-Morley experiment. There's many, many more compensations that are needed to obtain a null result. And the physicists, I don't know why that they haven't bothered to do their due diligence and figure this all out. I have no idea. But the important point of this is when you get to the end of this, you find out that all these things, length contraction, time dilation, these are things that vary as you translate. That's why this is called transvariance. These transvariations are all required to give you a null result on the Michelson-Morley experiment. But the more important part is they can all be explained by simple mechanics. None of this voodoo. Because you ever go ask an apostle of Albert, what causes time dilation? You know what his response to you will be? Oh, you obviously don't believe in time dilation. It's a proven fact. That's not the question. See how they defer the question? The question is what causes it. They have no answer for that. Ethereal mechanics explains what causes it. And because we can explain what causes all these things, there's a workaround that adds to our ability to travel faster than the speed of light. Because if you know what causes it, you can make a workaround. That's what we engineers do. We make workarounds to things that stand in our way. Same with length contraction. Okay, everything. No more of this voodoo physics that things must happen because we say they must happen. There's got to be a logical, causal explanation of why these things occur, and they're not voodoo physics. They're simple Newtonian mechanics when you break it all down. It's very, very so simple, even a physicist can do it. I mean, the paper and simulation video are available now. The video series will be out shortly. I'm going to redo the video series on this. Okay, the second paper, which is constructs. The paper is available. I'll show you how to get to the paper. There's a couple videos out on it, but you don't really need to see the videos right now. This is a low priority for me to redo these videos. I will redo them much later in the future, but you don't need to see the videos. You can just start at EM003. These are the other papers in the pipeline. I am hoping to get all the stuff for electromagnetism version 5 is done. I just got to write the paper and get the videos out. Hoping to get these out by the end of 2022. And cosmology, there's a whole crap load of stuff in cosmology. That's going to take all of 2023. And any little bits and pieces I'm developing on these, I'll release them when I can. We already have the preliminary part of the standard model released. The easiest way to find everything, go to the Ethereal Mechanics YouTube site and click on playlists. There'll be a playlist that has all the videos in the proper order you should watch them, ready to go. So you just click on the playlist and watch on through. Okay, right now the electrogravity series is done. It's published. We have the initial part of the standard model. That's the 8th paper. That's a teaser. It's got a lot of good stuff in there, but you really should watch this before you go watch that. Okay, there'll be a new playlist for status. If you want to find the papers, go to the distinti.com site. This is the repository. Okay, the videos here show the reason why we need to break the light barrier by at least a factor of 500, or we're going to perish. Okay, and everything related to ethereal mechanics, you click in here, and this will give you the paper for transvariance right here, the constructs paper. You go into electrogravity. Here's the paper for electrogravity, and then here's the videos listed in the order in which you should watch them. Okay, electromagnetism version 5. Okay, sorry, it's time to do some begging and pleading. I started this effort over 25 years ago, and up until 2017, I was paying for this effort completely out of my own pocket. I've spent more than $100,000, and just about all my free time outside of my day job was spent working on this. It was in 2017 that I realized I got enough to say this is right. I've had enough corroboration. And that's when I opened the Patreon site. And my Patreon folks have been great. They've helped me literally double the amount I spend on research and material for this effort. The issue is I'm still having to work a day job, and I would like to do this full time. Because on my day job, I can only spend weekends on this. That's the only free time I have left outside of my day job. So I'm going to do this. I know there's people out there that said, oh, you're begging and pleading. Yes, I am. Because literally, if I have to do this on only the time I can spend on the weekends, it's going to take me 5 years to get through most of the stuff that I have on the list to get to the point where we're going to see the very incredible stuff that we're looking to get to. Okay, and I don't know if the world has 5 years when you look at the nuttiness going on in the world. We're on a limited time here. I don't want the results of this effort to come too late to do any good for the world. Wouldn't that suck? And so I would want your help. I need your help. If you can become a Patreon member, please, $5 a month. I mean, what do you spend on Amazon Prime? I mean, what do you spend on your OnlyFans creator that you like? I mean, think about it. What's $5 a month? And there you get to see the inside information that my Patreon folks see. Okay, because a lot of things, like for example, new electromagnetism version 5 here, they've known about for probably close to 2 years while I've been working on it. They saw the status, how it's going, what the results are. And you have inside information. You'll see it 5 years before, or a couple of years before anybody else does. In most cases, at the very least, you'll see it at least a couple of months before the rest of the world sees it. You'll have the inside track. And then there's higher tier levels where you have access to software and the other items I have. And if you want to become a bridge officer, you can help vote on how this effort goes. I mean, my average Patreon right now is supporting me with $18.46 a month. So really, what's $5 a month? Okay, so I leave it there to you. Do we have enough time for me to do this on the limited time I have now? I'm going to try. I'm going to do the best I can. But your help would be greatly appreciated. And I greatly appreciate my Patreon members, what they're doing for me right now. And they've been a great source of, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Okay, and that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't given up in frustration on this is because of the support of the Patreon members. They've been a great asset for this effort. And I'd like someday to reward them. I mean, if we could come up with a product that I can form a company on, maybe we'll do stock sharing. I don't know. I'm a terrible businessman. And in it so much as I'm a terrible video maker. And that's the other thing. I'd like to hire people to take care of making the videos. People that can make better videos than I can. Get a nice looking spokesperson to be the front man. Things like that to make things better. To make Veritasium quality videos. Okay, I'd love to be able to do that, but right now I've got to do everything. I've got to do the science, I've got to do the experiments, I've got to develop, the circuit boards and the software. I've got to do the advertising, I got to do the taxes. Okay, when you get all that said and done, I get very little time to do the actual science. In fact, I show a video of my home to my Patreon members, and I pretty much let my home collapse. It needs a new roof, and my swimming pool looks like a pond with cattails coming out of it. Because this is very important to me. It should be very important to you. Okay, there's another site that is hosted by my supporters, and this is etherealmechanics.info. Again, because I don't have a lot of time to devote to answering questions, interacting on this blog site. But if I am able to get the time, because I'm able to get the traffic to the site and the income to the point where I can do things full time, I will gladly spend a lot more time on this blog site in support of my supporters. Okay, again, it's completely up to you. All right, I'm going to do this one way or the other, but I have limited time right now because I have a job. So in the end, there is a wonderful end to this. Let's hope that this wonderful end comes in time, that we idiot humans don't blow ourselves to kingdom come over the ridiculous crap that's going on in the world. Okay, I'm working every moment to make sure that there is no stone left unturned as far as me getting this done as quickly as possible, but your help would be greatly appreciated. And it might even be in your own best interest. Thank you.